Good morning, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar. For those of you who are joining for the first time, my name is Christelle Wren. I'm the Chief Operating Officer here at HRLocker. Today, we are going to be talking about all things ESG, CSRD, lots and lots of different acronyms, but really just kind of honing in on what do these acronyms mean to us as HR leaders, CEOs, C-suite people, managers. What are these going to mean for our own company around sustainability? So I am delighted to have with me Darragh Gaffney from the IRDG. And Darragh is the Director of Growth and Sustainability from the IRDG. Full disclosure, we've been members of the IRDG for a few years now. We were delighted to have Darragh because I'm just a huge fan of all the events that the IRDG host. So if anybody, it's just a little plug for Darragh, if anybody is interested in, I suppose, upcoming events or just any upcoming issues or legislations or R&D, tax credit advice or anything like that, I thoroughly recommend chatting to Darragh and the guys of the IRDG. So Darragh, that's my gushing over in regards to you. So if you want to maybe just introduce yourself and give us a quick whistle-stop tour of yourself and the IRDG.
Fantastic, and thanks very much, Christelle, and thanks very much for inviting me on. Delighted this morning to chat all things sustainability, and yes, it is an acronym soup out there, but let's try and work through some of it. Actually, just before I introduce myself and just before we kick off, I wanted to just ask the attendees, and maybe we just use the chat box if it's okay. I'd love to get a sense check of how would you describe the status of your company's sustainability strategy at the moment. So if we start where 1 is you feel it's non-existent, and 5 is it is fully integrated into the business, it is funded, and you're delivering it on a day-to-day basis. You live and breathe sustainability as a core value of the business. So if you wouldn't mind just throwing into the chat box just while I start to introduce myself, describe the status of your company's sustainability strategy. 1, non-existent. 5, fully integrated into the business, and would love to see what the numbers start to look like there in that. Okay, so first off, Christelle, thanks very much. My background is actually primarily technical in nature. I come from a biotech background and a research and development management background, actually. So I was director of a biotech company for a number of years, an R&D director. But as part of that company, became very embedded in building circular economy and circular bioeconomy based business models. So sustainability really was a core theme and at the heart of everything that we did as a business, as well as all the other operational aspects like leveraging R&D tax credits, like getting grant funding from the likes of Enterprise Ireland or the likes of Horizon Europe. But very much, sustainability was what we did. After that, after a number of years then, and as it happens, the company I worked for was actually a member of IRDG as well. When I was working there, I had stepped out into consultancy for nearly a year, and then the position within IRDG came up, and it just felt like a natural bedfellow. And what does IRDG do? Well, IRDG is the Industry Research Development Group. We are a fully independent innovation network in Ireland. And what makes us unique is the fact that we are multi-sectoral and we are national in nature. Okay, so, but we are all things research and innovation in Ireland. As you touched on it, Christelle, it is how to actually leverage all those aspects of the Irish and European ecosystem. So whether that's R&D tax credits, make sure you get your full 30% back, whether it's getting Enterprise Ireland grants, and we'll touch on actually some of the grants system later on in this session as well, for your R&D or your new product innovations. But then it's also actually getting an opportunity to see what does good and excellent look like. We run a lot of site innovation visits. A lot of our members, it is an open and transparent network, and a lot of our members are very happy actually to open their doors and share their experiences on a day-to-day basis. because it's multi-sectoral and you're not talking necessarily to competitors within your own field. And then we do a lot of work around advocacy and pre-budget submissions, different bits with Department of Finance and Department of Enterprise, Trade and Employment as well. But primarily it's those functional, tangible bits and pieces. But so yeah, so look, we'll kick off. I don't know, is there anything back into the chat yet?
There's loads. So lots of ones. So
okay,
glad this
great.
is a good place to start. Lots of ones, lots of twos, and 1-4. So I think James, you're ahead of everybody. Lots of ones and twos, and I think Darragh, that's the kind of key, I suppose, what drove us to reach out to you is in regards to ESG. It is it's a topic that's or sustainability. It's a topic that's hanging around. People have heard it everywhere. They've been told they have to do it. But I suppose if you can just maybe start from the basics, is what are companies supposed to do? Should it be part of their strategy? How do you start?
Yeah, absolutely. And look, in reality, a lot of companies are now waking up to this because of it's always going to be a carrot and stick approach. But in reality, a lot of companies these days are now waking up to it because of the stick of regulation that is coming. So, and as a result, what I'd say is that ESG needs to be, or I'll talk about sustainability because ESG, just so everybody is clear, actually stands for environmental, social, not sustainability. So environmental, social, and governance. Okay, so that covers many aspects within your business. And what we'd always say is with everything or every initiative like this is what gets measured gets done, basically. Okay, so if there isn't specific targets and if there isn't specific actions and there isn't sponsors and responsibility and ownership taken of sustainability within your business, it's just going to sit there. And it'll come up as the topic at every meeting and they'll go, what's happening? Well, not too sure. And who's doing that? Well, nobody's really been given responsibility, and then it'll just drift. And it'll drift until a customer comes and says, give us your data. And then it's panic stations. Okay, so let's try and avoid that. Okay, how do you avoid that? Well, sustainability needs to come at board level if your business has a board. It needs to be on the MD's or the CEO's desk, and they need to be the ultimate sponsor or the ultimate person that buys into it. Somebody needs direct day-to-day control of it, and your staff, who arguably are probably your most important stakeholders, need to feel buy-in and ownership of that as well. And we haven't even touched on your customers. So what I'd say is again, then how do you start to embed that into your business? Well, what I'd say is the first and foremost part is probably to create an internal champion. Okay, an internal champion, establish a sustainability committee within your business, and a sustainability committee that touches off every function within your business. So marketing needs to be in there, HR needs to be in there. If you have a technical department, they need to be in there. Procurement is a big one. Procurement and finance actually would be a big one that needs to be involved. You don't need to go too big too soon and start from there. And I'd say then that's where it becomes, and then you start to define what are the clear targets. My advice would be to everybody's going, oh, but what do we align to? You know, there's EcoVadis, there's B Corp, do we come, you know, science-based targets, like again, all these acronyms, all these regulatory frameworks, what do you actually go with? Start with the Sustainable Development Goals. Okay, there's 17 of them. Okay, and put them to your committee and let the committee actually start to filter down. I would recommend, for the large majority of companies that are on this call, I would recommend targeting 4 to 5 of those 17. You're never going to go after all 17. Like, you know, I mean, they're never going to be appropriate. Like life below water, if you're not an aquatic based company, you know, the life below water sustainable development goal does not make sense. Choose 4, and what I'd recommend is 3 of them should be core to what you do as a business, and 1 of them should be aspirational. And what I'd say is maybe adjacent to what the business does, for instance. and go from there. I think that's probably the best way. Give ownership, give agency to your employees to actually define and set the direction, as well as at a board level. So
yeah, and I think as well, yeah, Darragh, people will be surprised what your employees will come up with. Like just for our own, we did a sustainability task force, and we're 100% remote, so we have some people in Spain, and one of the things that they came up with was water conservation. And obviously we were all sitting here in Ireland going, we're okay, we don't need that. But it was key to them. And
yes.
The other thing, yeah, which I was surprised about, and probably my own naivety going into you're talking about the SDG side of it, which is the Sustainable Development Goals, correct me if I'm wrong, is I thought we were going to be sitting there talking about renewable energy and recycling, and it's not that.
Yeah.
Well, it's one of the elements, but it's not.
Yeah, no, it is. And look, I mean, and actually, what you've raised there, Christelle, is a really important point. Is that we automatically go for what's tangible, okay, and actually what's traceable. Like it is, and actually what hits the bottom line, and energy consumption. And energy, whether it's fuel or whether it's energy we consume as a business, either directly or indirectly, can be tracked, it can be measured, it can be reduced, and you know what? It can also be turned into a carbon baseline very easily. There's very strong established methods out there. So what I'd say is absolutely, if you are a big energy user, energy is probably one of the most, automatic ones to go after, absolutely. And it also actually can get early buy-in. Go for the low-hanging fruit. It'll get buy-in fairly straight away. If you can go, well, actually, these sustainability initiatives have knocked 15-20% off our electricity bill, for instance. Well, there you go. Suddenly now the CFO or the finance, function is going to start going, okay, yeah, maybe there's something in this. And you can then start to layer in extra bits and pieces, maybe one or two of the softer bits, like the diversity and inclusion policy,
Yeah, but just straight away showing that you're hitting the bottom line on
exactly,
that.
Exactly.
We can, any good examples of companies who've done it really well? And actually, Darragh, before I just, people who are on this webinar, usually at this time I get an angry text from Jenny saying, Christelle, you forgot to say, if anybody has any questions, please put them in the questions and answers section, and we'll try to get to them either throughout the webinar or at the end. But please, while we have Darragh here, throw as many questions in there as you can. Sorry, so back to this.
Great, yeah. And just to say, Christelle, I'll keep an eye on the Q&A here as well. So yeah, if at any section you want to ask a question in any section, if I see it, I'll try and address it there and then.
Right.
Yeah, the ones that are the most successful.
Yeah.
Ironically, Christelle, as I've identified here in the slide, they're at opposite ends of the spectrum. Okay, like there's probably a large chunk of SMEs that are sitting on this call going, "Oh my God, this is just going to be another headache, and it's going to be another cost that I have to layer into my business." And you're going, "Yeah, well, of course the multinationals can afford to do this. They're the ones that have the money to hire a director of sustainability and do all this good PR." Okay, and look, unfortunately, you're not wrong. Okay, they are the ones that can do it. However, a chunk of them are behind the curve as well. I mean, they've got what you would call where CSR strategies, so corporate and social responsibility strategies, which were really being used only as a marketing tool, and are now evolving those into ESG strategies and ESG rules. The second thing is the multinationals are struggling. There is a dearth of skills and out there within this area, because the rate of which ESG adoption has occurred is a whole lot faster than anybody could have predicted. So you can see anyway there that I identified absolutely the large multinationals have the resources, and a fantastic example of a multinational we're probably all using a piece of their kit at the moment, who identified sustainability as a core value about 7 years ago, is Logitech. So Logitech identified this, and actually it was the Irish entity in Cork who actually identified sustainability as a core driver for them. And so they push that agenda to the point at which now Logitech in the last 2 years has grown 20% faster than any of their other consumer electronics competitors. So you can see now the CEO was always bought in, but now the investors are actually seeing the impact to the bottom line as a result. At the other end of the spectrum is actually the startup community, you know, and it is because quite often, I'll come back and talk about millennials a bit later, but quite often a large cohort of the startup community is driven by people in that 20 to 25 kind of age bracket. Not exclusively, but you know, primarily is maybe a 20 to 30-year-old age bracket. They have had climate change and sustainability drummed into them since the day they were born. I think I heard somebody said to me there, I think the last month ago, for anybody that's on the call that is of a Catholic religious background, I've heard that climate change is the new original sin for millennials. You know, millennials have been born into a world and have inherited a climate mess that was not of their making, but that they're now being told to address. And a lot of them, for one way or another, are now actually embedding that into their day-to-day, into the day-to-day entrepreneurial spirit that they're doing. And again, as I've said there, not because of business, but because they inherently feel it is the right thing to do and they are purpose-driven.
Yeah, and I think that kind of goes nicely into my next question. It's in regards to that kind of HR side of things and employee engagement. Is I suppose we've gone past that bit where it's just a need for a company to do it and it affects the bottom line. Obviously, that's very important. That's how you're going to get your top stakeholders involved in regards to your board of management and your board of directors. But actually, in terms of employee engagement, you're talking about millennials and you know, that's now almost 35% of the workforce. So from an employee engagement perspective, our employees are expecting more from us as companies, and to actually not just have it greenwashing, but to actually have it as a strategic initiative. Has to be a priority for HR people at this stage.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll give you 2 stats that maybe just demonstrate that. So this isn't just, it's not just anecdotal, and it's not just hearsay, but if you look there, I mean, 62% of millennials want to work for a company that make a positive impact. And the flip side of that is that 56% of those millennials are deterred from even applying to a company by its lack of message on their values. You know, so if they feel, even just from the job spec, that actually the core values do not align with their own personal core values, they won't even stick a CV in or stick it in. The other thing is if they come in and they start the job on day one and they realize that actually what was sold to them at interview stage is not the reality on the ground, they'll just leave. You know, yeah. Like, I mean, they've no qualms about just going, nah, you're okay. Or actually, day before they're supposed to start, nah, I've been offered something else, you know, yeah. Which has more purpose and more meaning, and they'll just walk. And you can see that whole cohort, and we won't even touch on Generation Alpha and Generation Beta and what's coming up behind them. But this whole cohort are driven by purpose, not profit. You know, I mean, you have to remember, this is a generation where not just owning a house, but potentially owning a car is aspirational, and is an aspiration that they don't ever feel they'll ever attain. So I suppose their mental ability and what they do and the purpose and where they embed themselves and how they deliver themselves as a person more is aligned with the work that they do on a day-to-day basis. And so that's where that is actually landing as a result. So look, as a result then, like, I mean, the culture then has to be true, and it has to be authentic. That's from a recruitment, I suppose, angle. the other angle is, and we all know, and I'm sure everybody on this call knows, that it is a whole lot cheaper to retain the talent you have rather than actually replace somebody that leaves. So again, from a retention point of view, give your employees agency. Okay, and what I mean by that is include them in the process, in the decisions being made. It cannot be a top-down diktat anymore. Yes, if there's anybody on the call that maybe is part of a multinational, maybe sits within a global corporate structure, yes, there may be global targets that are set and that are then, you know, effectively foisted within and maybe an Irish site or a specific site, and you now need to deliver on those. But by and large, you have a lot of agency, and companies have a lot of control over how they target that. And again, I spoke to some of the practical examples of how that can actually be delivered. You know, setting up a sustainability committee, making sure it's multi-stakeholder engagement in terms of that, and listening, you know, in terms of that, making sure it's involved, and that it is true and authentic and gets the voice then at the senior leadership team level. It's not just, you know, oh, but we invested in a forest in South America. You know, it's also, how did you invest into the community? Yeah, and then what initiatives actually are you doing in the office, in our remote world, in our environment, to actually enable the business and your employees to be more sustainable as a result. It is softer, and it is they are a little more qualitative in terms of, I suppose, quantifying the impact and the bottom line impact. But I can guarantee you will start to see the positive impact within 6-9 months, and that your retention figures will start to change, or actually even your employee engagement scores, I would imagine, will start to increase as a result.
Yeah, and I can hear some HR managers giving a sigh, saying here's another admin task for us. But I can honestly say that, you know, like I said, we, under Darragh's lovely guidance, we did set up a sustainability task force. With over 30% of the employees who volunteered to be on it. Usually I'm kind of dragging people to be in a task force, but they all volunteered. And honestly, most of the initiatives are employee-led. Like one of the people we haven't started it yet is very passionate about being a vegan, and obviously from a sustainability side of things in terms of meat consumption. And she said she'd like to do, like, if we promote 1 day a month of no eating meat, and she'll do some cooking, sharing recipes. I was like, wow, that's really impressive. And then we've done walking challenges that we have not been directly, obviously we facilitated, but the employees are actually really interested into it, and the engagement levels are bigger, I think, because it's not, like you said, Darragh, just dripped down from the top saying, by the way, guys, we now have this well-being initiative, you all have to go on this app. It's actually that, you know, the girl who sits beside you saying, come on, this is a great idea that I've just started. So we've had a huge, it's actually been a kind of a double-edged sword in a good way, that from an SDG perspective, of course, we're now hitting that lovely well-being side of things, but actually from an employee engagement perspective, it's been great, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think especially when so many companies are in person, hybrid, remote, whatever the case may be, you know, I suppose employees pre-COVID, and I'm sorry to mention COVID, but pre-COVID.
You get fined every time, Darragh, you say that.
Yeah. I think before that, you know, employees saw their place of work as one of their primary communities. Post-COVID, that's been eroded, and it's just because of, you know, the remote and virtual world. They've come back into their locale as a result. So as you said, everything you've spoken about there and those initiatives are a great way as actually soft team building skills, you know, and actually opportunities then for people to actually get to know each other better, and can only be positive from a productivity point of view, you know.
Yeah, I totally agree. Then the next slide I'm just going to go on to, because we're talking about all the different stakeholders. So we have our employees, and then we have our from a C-suite side of things. If we look at that, you know, in regards to any initiative that you have to have buy-in. Are we purely, unfortunately, in most companies, just showing that it's going to affect the bottom line?
Yeah, and look, in reality, look, we all want to do this because it's the right thing to do. Okay, it is good for people, it's good for the planet. Okay, ultimately, however, if we want to shift the dial for business, it also needs to be good for profit. Okay, so the 3 Ps. Okay, and so ultimately, I think for anybody who's trying to get buy-in within the C-suite of your business, it is going to be those middle two. Okay, that will actually make them stand up and take note. It is the reduction of risk. Okay, because climate change now actually has to. The Institute of Directors has actually recently said that climate change needs to sit on the risk register at board level. So there you go. It's already been flagged actually as a tangible risk to a business. And if a business is not addressing that risk, well, then actually, do you know what? There's going to be it's going to be viewed in a lesser light. The other one then is the lower cost. And in reality, the biggest and easiest one you go after, as I mentioned earlier, is generally energy consumption. However, if you are a manufacturing company, and you physically manufacture products, I would say that there's, yeah, energy is probably a big one, but I'd say there's probably chunks there within your supply chain or within your production process, whether it's being as lean as possible within your manufacturing process, that actually is probably the 2 easiest ones to go after. We've also seen then that again, there's every number of market reports, and what I'm trying to do here, Christelle, is give examples that can be evidenced, okay, and that can put an evidence base behind them. So as a result, then there is any amount of reports out there that show that businesses, as I said earlier, businesses that invest in true sustainability strategies grow faster than their competitors. They also instill increased trust, not just, as I said, in employees, but in their customers as a result. You know, and that doesn't matter whether you exist in a B2B or a B2C environment. That's where that shifts. You know.
And Darragh, I wonder, is now a good time to talk about, in terms of the customer side of things and the C-suite side of things, is we spoke about this earlier, is that even though from I'm also just looping in a question that's here in regards to the legal requirements, but we're all sitting here nicely saying, oh, you know what, we don't need to do the CSRD reporting because we're not in that side of things. However, not unfortunately, but we're in the supply chain, so we're being pushed down that route early, right?
Yeah, so basically, for anyone who's not aware, so CSRD stands for the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive.
Sorry, I should get fined every time I say an acronym.
Yeah. No, well, it's my fault for giving you acronyms in the text. And it is an EU wide reporting directive. Okay. And basically what it is a framework on which to compile all your data, but also narrative around what it is that you do. So yes, it will absolutely ask you to quantify, you know, how much electricity do you use on an annual basis, but it will also say, talk to your sustainability strategy or talk to your environmental abatement, processes. Some of them are applicable, some of them are not. Okay. However, CSRD has come into effect this year for what are called Scope 1 companies, and Scope 1 companies are those that are greater than 250 million turnover, certain employee level, and other different revenue targets. They will have to report in January 25 for 2024. Okay, SMEs, of which the very large majority of Europe is made up, I think 72% of all businesses registered in the EU are SMEs, are out of scope for the next 3 years. So they don't have to officially report for another 3 years. However, a very large majority of them, as you mentioned, are in the supply chain of companies that are in scope. And so actually they've inadvertently been pulled into the net 3 years ahead of schedule. And that's why there's a huge scramble, in particular around the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive. It is something that's going to become auditable. So in reality, your CFO or your financial director will get responsibility for it, and it will need to be reported as part of your monthly management or your monthly financial reporting directives as well. So, and as you can see, what I've just flagged there is that if you exist within a B2C environment, at the moment, I think companies, it is enough to say that we are a sustainable business and we do X, Y, and Z. Okay, and customers are taking that on a trust basis at the moment. However, for those of you that are in a B2B market, originally it was being taken on a trust basis, but CSRD is now driving to, don't just tell me, show me and give me the data. You know, so as a result, that's kicking in. So as a result, that question they're asking about the legal requirements, CSRD is a legal requirement, and you are going to have to do it one way or another. Maybe not legally for the next 3 years, but if you want to keep your customer base happy, you're going to have to start doing it fairly quickly. I'd also just kind of mention, the public and customers have developed very strong and very well-honed noses for BS, basically, and for sustainability strategies that are not authentic versus what they may hear about the company. Okay, so they may say thing over here on the right hand side, but then actually the actions on the left hand side are in direct contradiction to that, and they're going to start having negative impacts on a number of companies as a result.
Yeah.
So anything that, there is nothing wrong with saying we're investing, as I said, we're investing in a forest in Brazil or in South America or something like that, as long as it's part of a wider strategy that you're delivering that is more tangible and authentic.
Yeah, and I think that's it, isn't it? Greenwashing is kind of, you know, people can kind of see through it. And I mean, I said this to you before, I mean, what kind of started our company on the journey in regards to, sustainability is something we need to look at, is I was sitting at an Enterprise Ireland event 2 years ago, and they said, hey, you want funding? We need to see your sustainability plan. You want investment? We need to see your sustainability plan. And that kind of gets your ears pricked to go, oh, okay, we can't just have a sticker anymore that says we're green. We need to actually do something about it. So, I mean, that's another massive incentive, I think, Darragh, just in regards to that. It's kind of, from a financial perspective, it's now going to be a requirement, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is why it's now on the risk register for at a board level, you know, is because it is going to incur a higher cost of doing business. Like for instance, I think many people may have heard, you know, a lot of banks these days offer preferential mortgage rates, you know, if you can demonstrate, you know, or actually the mortgage rate that you can access is actually a function of your building energy rating of the house that you're going to purchase, and you can get a lower rate, you know, if you have a higher BER. That exists in the corporate world now as well. I know of a company who accessed a 2% lower interest rate on a fairly significant equity investment versus if they weren't, and actually they would have actually been excluded from even tapping a number of different equity investment opportunities without the sustainability strategy that they had in place already.
Yeah,
I've also seen the other where actually investment is secured, and then the new investors come in and go, right, now you need a director of ESG. You need a new board member who has direct responsibility for sustainability. You need, you know, so they're now layering in these requirements as a part of those that investment requirement.
One of the things I thought was fascinating that we spoke about was the M&A trends in regards to sustainability by acquisition. Hadn't heard about it before, and really interesting in regards to an area that's happening that we don't see.
Yeah, absolutely. And funny, I don't think anybody could have predicted this, but a trend that we're starting to see is like, as you can imagine, some large companies may have supply chains that are absolutely huge, you know, and extremely complex. So what's starting to happen is I would have seen previously companies that are not true innovators, but they innovate by acquisition. So they acquire a smaller company who is really innovative. They basically embed that new processes, procedures into their own company, and then they sweat those innovation assets. And we're now seeing that from a sustainability point of view, you know, so medium or large companies that sit within the same supply chain and they're going, right, we're behind the curve here. However, there's somebody else that's 1 or 2 points away from us in the supply chain. However, they're really well honed from a sustainability strategy point of view and what they're doing. Why don't we acquire them? And actually that will start to raise our credentials, and actually it'll be a nice kickstart that actually we can layer into our own business. So that in itself I thought was a really interesting thing to see. What it's also doing is it's actually those that are slightly ahead of the curve, it's making them a more attractive acquisition target as a result, and actually they're able to achieve a higher acquisition value than if they didn't have sustainability within their business, you know. So yeah, like that. So yeah, another one of those unintended consequences, but a bit more of a positive one.
Future outlook, Darragh. I'm sitting here. I've just completed my course on being a sustainability leader, trying to do the CSRD reporting, trying to do pick our ESGs. What do you think will be the biggest challenges for companies, or let's say challenges and opportunities for the SME sector?
Yeah, absolutely. So, so if I can give, I can really understand how, and a lot of people probably are on this call going, oh, this just feels way too big and it feels too intangible and don't even know where to get started. Okay, so before I even talk about data, let me give you a 3-point plan. Okay, that if you adhere to should get you along the way. Okay, quantify. Okay, quantify and benchmark where you are as a business. Okay, if you need to just start with carbon, start with carbon. Quantify what your scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3 carbon footprint and your emissions looks like. Okay, right, that's it. Point number 1. Point 2, and this is where engaging the likes of your committee is important. Prioritize. As I said, go after maybe 4 SDGs or 4 target areas within your business that you want to go after, that's core to your values and core to what you want to be as a business. And then prioritize which of those you're going to go after. Do not let perfect be the enemy of the good. Okay, you will be, your gut of where your business's impact and what you should go after will be 80% correct. Okay, if you're not too sure what to do, look at what your competitors are doing. Okay, look at what other people within your sector are doing and use that as a guide first and foremost to actually push yourself forward. Mm-hmm. Directly going back to the stick that's out there, CSRD data is going to be a challenge. Okay, because the data that you need to compile is in many different locations within your business, and it's in many different forms within your business. So actually, 1, finding and compiling that data is going to be a challenge, and 2, actually turning that data into, you know, just into manageable documents is going to be the second challenge. And then look, as I said, please don't let the size and the intangibility of it stop you from doing it, you know.
Yeah, and I think that's it. It's a case of, I know when I looked at it first, and I'd say everybody's the same. I have a question here from Katie, in just in regards to where did the course that I was talking about. So I've just completed the Sustainable Leaders Program through the Climate Ready Academy, which is 100% funded through SkillNet. I would recommend it, but actually, Darragh, where it got us from is I went on and going, I don't know where to start. I don't know what to do. I don't know where I should write things down. And at the end of it, you get a tangible sustainability charter that no doubt will change. And I know you said you'd throw something at me if I said this, but it is a journey that we're on. It's not on, like, it's, you want to have your actions and your measures in 2026, 2027. Some obviously we can do this year, but you're not all of a sudden going to become carbon neutral by December.
No,
So
no.
it is a plan. Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And funny, I might just come back to some of the. I see one or two questions there as well in terms of, and I'm sure CSRD would probably exercise a huge amount of people, and I'll come back to some of the funding supports. The CSRD has things in it called ESRS 1, 2, and 3 reports. They're Excel spreadsheets. You can get them publicly, and they will actually show you the type of data and the type of narrative that you need to that you will need to complete. Somebody else is also asking, where can I see a real world example of a CSRD return? Well, I haven't been able to find one because nobody has submitted one yet. Because the first wave of those returns aren't due until January 25. So actually, I'd also maybe just flag to everyone on the call. That also means if you're in a multinational supply chain, I'd say from August, September onwards, somebody's going to be beating a path to your door looking for looking for data and what because they're going to be scrambling to complete their own return. I'd also make one observation as well before the grant funding element is please beware technology providers. Okay, it is not that they may not add value. Okay, but please define first and foremost, one, what you need to do first and foremost, and two, what the technology can actually do. And there's a huge amount of people that are going to beat a path to your door the second you raise your head above the parapet, and they'll be offering AI enabled software platforms to do X, Y, and Z. Okay, please interrogate them, well. Okay, and understand. Don't let them hit you with jargon. The one question is what aspect of my CSRD return will you actually deliver? Can I press a button each quarter that generates my report? If they can't answer yes to that, find someone else. It's as simple as that.
And a lot of it's to do with the narrative, right? I mean, I showed this to you yesterday that I downloaded this very fancy Power BI report dashboard that showed us all the usage that we were doing with Azure and 365 and and I was like, I don't know what this means. Does this mean we're doing good or bad? So it is the narrative around, well, actually, what does that actually mean? Does that mean we're good or bad? There are lots of funding at the moment. I would 1000% agree with you in regards to don't go off and buy software. Do your investigation figure out what strategy you want first before you go near any software, even if you require it. But I suppose, do you want to go through a couple of the?
Yeah, well, I tell you what, just people will get the slides so they can take a look here.
Okay.
I've split them out into, if you're an IDA client company, what's available there. Again, IDA have that program called D3. It is primarily focused around Scope 1, Scope 2, and Scope 3 carbon footprint. Absolutely fine. And you can see there actually that Green Start, Green Plus. That Green Start and Green Plus actually are a great way to actually start to build that sustainability champion within your business. And it'll help you actually to bring a consultant into your business, start to embed the processes and procedures that you need within your business, help you establish that sustainability committee, all that, and even do run education bits internally. Enterprise Ireland, very similar. You've got a climate action voucher there, €1,800 to get you going. Green Start then is €5,000 of a consultant. As I said, get back best practice systems into your business and the structures and lay a foundation. Green Plus then is probably about 50% of a 40k spend. again, to actually then start to embed it within your business. And strategic consultancy. If you need to, for instance, bring in an external consultant to actually build that 1, 3, 5 year plan for the business, that exists there. And then there is the Climate Enterprise Action Fund would be more about capital investment and decarbonisation within your business. Do you want to, transition from gas to electric, energy production, bits and pieces like that?
Would you say, Darragh, like, I know we've done the Climate Action Voucher and the Green Start, and as a professional services company, I suppose our supply chain is our main, by remote, our supply chain would be our main thing in regards to climate action. Looking at Green Plus in regards to a €40,000 investment, most professional services or that kind of that SME sector, unless you're in manufacturing or med tech or something like that, you're not going to be investing that much, are you?
No, but I mean, it's horses for courses, like, so basically what falls out of your Green Start. So these are like this one, these are quite sequential. They often want to see you use the Climate Action Voucher first.
Oh yes, you have to start at step 1. Yeah.
Yeah, well, you don't have to, but like, I mean, they prefer if you did, because each one will build on top of the other. So, that 40K I was talking about, that's the maximum.
Yeah.
Okay, so you'll get 50% of a 40K spend. Obviously, if you're large enough to actually need to spend that amount, but as you were saying, as a professional services business, you might only want to spend somewhere between 5 to 8K, on actually, that alignment to standards and embedding those frameworks within your system.
And our experience, Darragh, and I think we spoke about this as well, is that, to be honest, Enterprise Ireland are very supportive of these grants. Like they want you to get them. Absolutely. Our experience has been very positive in getting them. Oh, that's it. So I think we've gone through all the questions. If anybody wants to throw another couple of questions in there, but Darragh, I'm just conscious of time.
Sure.
I don't want everybody to start. I love when we talk about grants and everybody's like, can I get Darragh's number? Because I want to know where I can get the grant.
Yeah.
What's the best way for people to get in touch with you or the IRDG? Where are we sending everybody?
Yeah, look, I suppose the easiest and most easy access area is find me on LinkedIn. Is probably the easiest. Absolutely, connect with me on LinkedIn, and happy to connect, and always happy to have conversations with people. Like, I mean, sustainability and the sustainability agenda is a passion of mine. It's something I believe in, so I'm happy to talk to absolutely anyone, and I'm not going to funnel people towards any kind of membership or business or anything like that, unless they lead it themselves. So I'd say LinkedIn is probably the best port to call.
And I would definitely say, unfortunately, you've had me to your Europe a couple of times in regards to kind of just getting the push in the right direction of what should we be doing, the voucher, or should we be doing the other thing? So if anybody wants to book a call with Darragh, please do.
Yeah, and actually, funny enough, just in case companies aren't an Enterprise Ireland client already and actually interact with their local enterprise office, or are not already an Enterprise Ireland client, the local enterprise office will offer everything that Enterprise Ireland can as well. So Brilliant. just to say that as well. And I think if I could make one kind of just, I suppose, not necessarily closing comment, but just kind of a call to action almost. I'm conscious that there's probably a strong cohort of maybe HR, maybe L&D professionals that are on the call that maybe feel sustainability is not, isn't a core part of what their day-to-day maybe looks like. I was invited with a fantastic phrase a number of years ago, and it was lead beyond your authority. Okay. We all know that sustainability is something that needs to be acted on and needs to be done, and because it's the right thing to do. And you might go, well, why should the HR person or the L&D person be championing this? It's not the natural place for it. So what? If it's a core value and it's a core passion that you want to actually push within your business, lead it and push it. Lead beyond the authority of what you feel your position may or may not be, and absolutely ground it in tangibles. and it'll soon gain traction.
Yeah, and that's a great agenda, Darragh, because honestly, I would 100% agree with you, is that it has to start somewhere, and it can start small, but it's good to have it as an initiative. And yes, it's another thing that's probably been thrown over to HR, but you know, somebody's got to lead it, I suppose. So thank you so much, everybody, for being with us today. Thank you, Darragh, immensely for being with us today. I really appreciate it, and I could talk to you for another hour. And I think with the email, Jenny, we might put down an acronym, little slide of what does everything what does everything mean. But thank you so much, and we shall talk to everybody soon. So take care, everyone.